What's going on, everybody? Today, we're going to be breaking down this upcoming fight card between Jake Paul, Nate Diaz. There's a lot of interesting fights on this card. I know a lot of people are talking about basically, the main event between Nate Diaz, Jake Paul. People feel, we'll get to that as we go here. But I'm going to start off at the very bottom, which will be the first fight. Shout out to Tapology for, keeping this updated, because one thing I got to say about this whole promotion thing is it's been really hard to kind of find the lineup and find out what's really going on. But lucky for you, I know who a lot of these people are, at least from Team Diaz, that are going to be fighting. Like the very first fight of the evening, there's 9 bouts that are officially booked for this card as of this moment. And the very first fight is, again, if you're an MMA person and you're not super familiar with boxing, there's not going to be necessarily as many fights on the card and on a boxing card, because a lot of the times the fights, not necessarily get finishes. Whatever reason, boxing cards are not decked out. Like if you're used to watching the UFC, it's not super decked out. But okay, here we go anyway. Luciano Ramos and CJ Hamilton. So both of these guys are former MMA guys. CJ Hamilton, 16-9 pro record coming into this thing, making his pro boxing debut at 135 pounds against Luciano Ramos, who is 1-3 as a boxer. He's from NDA Academy, which, if you don't know what that is, Nate Diaz, their gym out there, NDA Academy, Nate Diaz Academy. And, Luciano Ramos, if you've never seen this guy fight, a lot of what he's going to be bringing to the table is, he's fights just like kind of the Diaz guys, throws his hands out, ducks underneath, likes to, make it kind of a street fight in there. So it's definitely going to be an interesting opening bout. Don't miss this one. Again, this is kind of my don't miss matchups here for the Diaz-Paul card. There's a lot of really intriguing matchups on here. I know a lot of people, don't necessarily know who these people are, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that are going to entertain you on this card. So, instead of looking at it as a joke, sit down and look at this and realize kind of who's performing. Look up some of these guys and do a little bit of research, because I'm telling you, there's some interesting fights on here. So this one is definitely going to be a fun one. 2 former MMA guys. It's going to be scrappy. It's a 4 rounds, 3 minutes apiece. It'll be interesting. 135 pounds, so scrappy little dudes that are going to be able to go for a while. Because if you're not familiar with, the lighter weight classes, cardio is no problem. So at least it shouldn't be. So that's a great first fight to start this thing off. Then moving on up to 154 pounds, we got Jose Aguayo and Noel Cavazos. Jose Aguayo, he's another guy from NDA Academy. He fights just like Luciano Ramos. What you'll notice with the NDA guys, even if I didn't tell you that they were NDA guys, you would kind of notice right away, just off of the style, the things that they do in there, the taunting, the things that maybe aren't very traditional in boxing. You're going to see a lot of that from these guys. And Noel Cavazos, this is going to be another great fight. A little bit more of a boxing background here, 2-1. You got to give the experience advantage to him. But Jose Aguayo's had plenty of MMA fights. He's competed in the PFL. And when you're coming out of the Diaz camp, you're going to be game. There's no doubt about it. It's not going to be an easy fight. Maybe not the most technical guys, but they're fighters, man. They're coming to fight, and you better be ready. So I'm excited for this one as well. I got my eye on Jose Aguayo to watch this fight. I think it's going to be interesting. Then moving on up to Kevin Newman and Madera. Now we're getting into more of the professional boxers, guys that are, they've been cutting their teeth in boxing for a while. Maybe haven't gotten that shine that they deserve. Both guys 14-3 coming in. There is a draw or contest, whatever, on here for Kevin Newman. But I think this is going to be a great back and forth match. This is what I like about boxing, and specifically this card. Whenever Jake Paul has been boxing, these undercard fights have actually been pretty good. I was at the Tyron Woodley Jake Paul 2 card. There was a lot of fights on there that a lot of people didn't know anything about. I did my research ahead of time, and like Chris Avila was fighting on there, which we'll get to him in just a few. There's some entertaining guys on here. So definitely going to be, that's an 8-round. This is going to be an 8-round boxing match. So again, that's part of the reason, cards aren't always decked out, because, on here, you're going to see with some of the more experienced guys, like you saw with Ramos and Aguayo's fights, they're going to be a little shorter. They're only going to be 4 rounds, but then we move up to 2 guys that I guess you could say are veteran boxers at this point. You're going to get 8 rounds. So that just makes sense there. Moving on up to Alan Sanchez and Angel Beltran. I love this matchup. Alan Sanchez, a guy that's been training out with Nate Diaz and NDA Academy for the past few years at least. He's a tremendous boxer, 22-5 coming into this one. Angel Beltran, 17-1. The tricky thing with boxing is it can almost be like MMA in a way, but a little bit more in boxing, where you never really know with a guy's record, right? You can't read into that 17-1 or 25-0. It's hard to do that because with boxing, they like to kind of, pick some of those favorable matchups and build these guys up, which I completely understand. I don't blame anyone. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying, this is a matchup where we're going to get to find out about Angel Beltran, and we're going to get to find out about Alan Sanchez as well, because Alan Sanchez's name hasn't really popped up a ton until now, kind of coming into the limelight here on this Paul Diaz card. This is why Nate, took this match against Jake Paul, was to get all of his boys on there, get them taken care of, get them paid, get them some shine. This is a huge match for Alan Sanchez. This is an 8-rounder, two experienced boxers. This is a real boxing match. This isn't former MMA guys and this and that. This is a real boxing match. So if you want to see, pretty high-level boxing, this fight's for you. Moving on to Green versus Curry. Again, this is definitely going to be an interesting matchup. Olivia Curry, 7-1. And then Green, 12-0 coming into this one. Shadeja, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but she's got, 12-0. This is what I said. We're going to find out here because Olivia Curry is no joke. Both of these girls or women are tremendous boxers. If you haven't, again, YouTube is such a great tool. You could always go out, look someone's name up, type in their name, and then boxing and see a little bit about them. I think this is going to be a dogfight. I think that this is going to be a fantastic boxing. I shouldn't say fight, but boxing match. I think this is going to be a tremendous matchup. 12-0, 7-1. So we're not looking at green fighters here as we work up the card. The early prelims basically converted MMA guys. Here, we're getting into some real boxing matches. You want to see good technical boxing, this is another matchup for you. I lean towards Green in this matchup. I probably should have did that before, but Green, I'm leaning towards her in this matchup. She's aggressive. She's a very good counter striker. I think that she's going to be able to get the job done here and put the pressure on Curry. And I don't know about a finish. I would hope so because it is 10 rounds. So no offense. I mean, that is only, it's only 20 minutes because it's 2-minute rounds here. But, hopefully we can get a finish there. And I think if someone's going to get the finish, it's going to be Green. So I like that matchup. But I'm also going to roll with Alan Sanchez. I'm going to go with Madera in this one. I'm going to go with Jose Aguayo for the upset. And then I'm going to go with Luciano Ramos. I guess you could call it an upset. He has more pro boxing experience. But I think that he's going to be able to pull that one off against CJ Hamilton. Again, I am going to side with NDA Army, so take it with a grain of salt, I guess. All right, Ashton Sylve, William Silva. This is probably, honestly, this may be this may be the best matchup on the entire card. Ashton Sylve, a guy that Jake Paul was really high on. They signed him to the promotion. There's a lot of push behind him. He's 9-0. He's that, kind of typical boxer coming hot off the press. There's a lot of push behind him. There's a high expectations. Signs to MVP Promotions, which is Most Valuable Promotions, Jake Paul's promotion. Not waiting around, getting right to it. 30-4, William Silva. This is a veteran against a newcomer. This is a tough matchup for Ashton Sylve. I am going to roll with him. I think the kid's the real deal. He's very good. He's very technical. He's got tremendous cardio. He's a sniper in there. I think he's going to be able to get the job done. But man, this is a tough matchup. It's a 8-rounder, so at 135 pounds. So dangerous for Sylve because 8 rounds, he's rather inexperienced at this point. I know 9 boxing matches is still pretty good, but compared to a guy who's had 30-plus boxing matches, we're talking about a veteran presence here. I think Ashton Sylve, he's ready for the moment. He's been in some big moments being affiliated with Jake Paul at this point. I think that Ashton Sylve is probably going to be able to get this one done. Not going to be easy. Maybe he gets a finish towards the middle, later rounds. But I think the longer this fight goes, that favors Silva. He's going to be able to implement some of that veteran presence. So I am going to roll with Ashton Sylve in that one. Moving on up, this is the fight that I'm actually probably one of the most interesting fights on this entire card is Chris Avila, who's 3-1 as a professional boxer, going up against Lil Heathen, Jeremy Stevens. Yes, that is Jeremy Stevens from the UFC. He just recently boxed Jose Aldo on Jorge Masvidal's Game Bred Boxing, where Anthony Pettis took on Roy Jones Jr. So this is a great matchup. I like this. I think that this bleeds fight of the night. This bleeds violence here. Jeremy Stevens is absolutely violent. Win or lose, he brings it. He's a power puncher. Doesn't have a ton of experience with boxing. I know it says he's 0-0 on here, but I think he's 0 I think that, Jose Aldo got the job done. So I would assume that counts as a loss. But again, I don't know. It might've been an exhibition. So you might have to fact check me there, but it's an 8-rounder at 168 pounds. So Chris Avila's last win, it was against Paul Bamba, a guy that's more, he's an influencer, but kind of a pro boxer, had a little bit of an experienced record. Chris Avila is a guy that's fought MMA. He's a guy that's, been kind of Nate's right hand, training partner, whatever you want to call it, for a long, long time. He's finally getting this big moment against a big name in Jeremy Stevens. I think Chris Avila gets this done. And I know that I'm biased towards NDA Academy, but these guys can box, man. They got a little bit of an awkward style, but if I'm being honest, I think the one that probably has possibly the best boxing skills coming out of NDA on this card representing NDA very well could be Chris Avila. The guy's dedicated to the sport. If you see his Paul Bamba match or boxing match, you get to see that the guy knows what he's doing in there. He kind of wings his overhand right at times, but he's very technical. He doesn't do a lot of the throwing the hands up in the air, walking away, kind of doing those little games. Chris Avila is very much in there to box. You're not going to see a lot of those street antic tactics, street boxing tactics, whatever you want to call it, with Chris Avila. He's all business in there. And I think Chris Avila is going to get this one done. I don't think that this is going to be a finish, though. I think he's going to, I think he'll unanimously get the job done. I think he'll get a unanimous decision, but it's definitely not going to be easy. But I am rolling with Chris Avila. This is a real fight against Jeremy Stevens. I love this matchup. I did a breakdown on this, so if you want to know a little more about that one, check that out on my channel under the Paul Diaz playlist I have. Okay. I'd be lying if I know there's a lot of matchups on here, man. So I keep contradicting myself and keep changing what I'm saying, but I'm not really changing what I'm saying, man. This card, I'm telling you, people have been sleeping on this for months. I have not. I've been talking about this and building this up on my channel for an extended period of time. Amanda Serrano and Heather Hardy. This is a tremendous, tremendous boxing match right here. I mean, 10 rounds. It's for the belt. Undisputed female featherweight title is on the line. Amanda Serrano, I got to see her fight live on that Paul Woodley 2 card. She's coming off that loss against Katie Taylor. Tremendous boxing match. One of the biggest names in the sport, Katie Taylor. Amanda Serrano was someone that, 44-2. She's been around a long time. Was on a crazy win streak. Has fought in multiple weight classes. Had multiple titles in multiple weight classes. And she's finally, kind of been unshined, thanks to Jake Paul. He's really kind of taken the initiative to get this lady her shine. And he has done that. She has bursted onto the scene. She is tremendous. She's got tremendous boxing skills. She's got great cardio. She's able to finish the fight. There really isn't anything Amanda Serrano can't do. Her countering abilities. She throws good straight, long combinations. Her movement's brilliant, her cardio, and it's just she's the whole package, right? You can't get 44 wins by not being good everywhere. So there's really no weaknesses here. Heather Hardy, a little younger, a little greener, 24-2. This is going to be, I think, another tremendous matchup, but I think Amanda Serrano is able to get the job done. She's familiar with these moments, titles on the line. I think she gets the job done and rises to the occasion. The one you've all been waiting for, here we are at Jake Paul, Nathan Diaz. Yes, I said Nathan. 10 rounds. This is very interesting. This was supposed to be 8 rounds. It got bumped up to 10. This is the main event of the evening. Jake Paul, 6-1. Nate Diaz has not had a professional boxing match. Yes, however, there's been a lot of talk about Nate Diaz over the years, him training with professional boxers, Andre Ward, sparring pros all throughout his MMA career. You see it. If you see the sparring footage, he's got the headgear on, he's got the shoes on. His movement's different when he's in the boxing ring. Nate Diaz absolutely understands the sport of boxing. I think this is going to be a tremendous boxing match. I think Jake Paul is absolutely going to be improved. I think that this is not going to be an easy matchup for either guy. I do think Nate Diaz is going to get the job done. Jake Paul possesses he has the power advantage in this matchup, right? You don't need to be a genius to know that one. He's the bigger guy. This is at 185. I know Nate wanted this at 180. They couldn't get it done, but Nate's that dude, man. He'll take any fight, really. He said, deal, we'll get it done at 185. It's 10 rounds. The longer the fight goes, you'd think it would favor Nate, but however, Jake has a point. He has gotten knockdowns later in the fights against Tommy Fury, against Anderson Silva. So that power translates. The power carries. So Nate's always going to have to be on alert throughout this entire matchup. I think that Nate's pressure, his cardio, his pace, and just he has good boxing skills. People just don't, it's not your aesthetically pleasing boxing that you're going to see on the pads when Gervonta Davis or Floyd Mayweather's hitting Mitch. It's not that kind of boxing. It's a little more quirky. It's a style that's kind of suited him, right? It's built off of toughness, being a warrior, cardio, landing good, clean shots. And I think Nate's going to use some of those distracting tactics where he kind of takes a walk in the park, steps away, and Jake Paul kind of plays into the games and starts having some fun in there. Next thing you know, he starts getting a little tired. But I think it's discrediting to say Nate only wins by cardio and pressure and this and that. I think Nate has good boxing skills, and people are going to see that come August 5th. I think that Nate Diaz gets the job done. I think he gets it done by decision. Or later in the rounds, Jake starts to get tired and Nate starts to tee off on him and starts to do his little sprints where he gets you up against the ropes like he's done with McGregor and just kind of, starts working the body, coming upstairs. You get tired and then the ref comes in to stop it. But Jake's a tough dude too, man. So I think this goes to distance. Nate Diaz gets the unanimous decision and gets the nod. And I think Nate Diaz wins. Hope you all enjoyed this card breakdown. I know a lot of people aren't going to be able to break down this card, so hopefully I gave you enough insight to help you out here to know what you're looking at come August 5th. Again, do your research on some of these fighters because this is actually a really good boxing card. It's very underrated. Outside of the main event, there's a lot of exciting matchups that are going to be very entertaining. Wish I could be there. Let me know down in the comments what you all think of this card, some fights that you're looking forward to. I appreciate you all, and subscribe. See you in the next one.